Hi everybody, it's Stacy here, Stacy Wells Artistry. And I'm here today for the second segment of my Stained Glass 101 series, where I decided to do some videos that would have helped me when I was trying to learn how to do stained glass, because I used YouTube a lot. Other than that, I'm self-taught, but I did learn a lot on YouTube, and I was trying to think of the things that I would have liked to have seen on videos when I was just starting out. So I've broken it down to a pretty basic level. On the previous video, we made our patterns right here, and when we ended, we had two of these. One of them we cut up into our pieces, and the other one is going to be the piece we're going to work from. So it's going to be set aside for now. And here are the pieces of the second one that we made. That's where we left off last time. So if you haven't seen that video, you might want to go back and look at it. And today we're going to be starting, with cutting glass, actually cutting the glass. And in order to do that, you need your pieces, first of all. And I get them, and after I cut them out, I separate them into the different either shapes or colors, however I'm feeling like doing. You can separate them any way you want to, or however you want to do that. It's just kind of easier for me if I have them in some kind of order. And then the next thing you're going to need are your tools. You need a glass cutter. This is my favorite kind. There are other kinds. There's a pencil grip kind. There are different kinds. This one to me is a pistol grip, and it is to me easier to use. It has oil in it. You have to put oil in it. It has a little opening, and you need to get some oil to put in there. They make a special kind of oil for it, and every now and then you need to clean this end of it, wipe it off real good. Then you need a pair of breaking pliers. That's these big ones. They have a little mark on the top side. This is the side that you're going to use to cut the glass with, facing up. Okay, they won't work if you turn them the other way around. So you need to get a pair of those. Then you need a pair of grazing pliers. That's these littler ones. They have a curved surface right here. See, it's curved. And then they have a flat side. And the curved side goes down. And you're going to use those for when you cut your glass. If there are some big pieces sticking out past your line, some things that you don't want on there, you can use these to kind of nip those off, okay, before you grind. But these are the ones that we're going to use to actually cut the glass. You can also cut glass by, if you cut a straight line, you can use the table to cut it. You can break it in your hands like this. There's a lot of ways to do it, and I could fill up a lot of time talking about that. But I'm just going to jump right in and do a couple of examples, and maybe that'll make things a little clearer. You can see part of it probably. I have a tool over here that I use for cutting straight lines. As you can see on this piece, there are a lot of straight lines. And those are really hard to cut freehand. It's very hard to stay on a straight line. It can be done, but this tool here has a straight edge on it, and it's like cutting right next to a ruler. And I'll show you how I use that. That makes it really easy to stay straight. And I'm just cutting on this board right here because I don't want to scratch up the table. You just need a hard surface. So let me get you a little bit closer so you can see a little better. Okay. Now, so we'll just do a couple of pieces, and you can see. Okay, we've got these two pieces right here. These two come from the number 1 and number 2, the inner surface of our piece, and I decided to go with a clear glass on that. It's really pretty. It looks ice glass. Okay, so we're gonna put it down on the board. And since here's something that was confusing to me at first. If you have glass that has a certain surface texture, like, I don't know if you can see, but this is bumpy on this side. The other side is smooth. Obviously, you don't want to try to cut the bumpy side. Okay, that's really rough and really hard to cut on. So you need to turn it over. However, you want the bumpy side to be face up on your piece. So how do you do that? Well, you have to take your piece that you cut out. See, this is number 2. And I've got my clear and my little lines on it that show which direction. This glass has texture but no direction, so we don't have to worry about that. You're going to turn it upside down on the glass that you're cutting from. See, like that. Okay? And that way, when I cut it and turn it over, the upside will fit into my pattern with the bumpy side on the top, because that's what we want. Now, the other tool that you need is this, a Sharpie. That works the best to me. There's other things you can use. They make things specifically for this purpose, but I just like the Sharpie. You're going to outline your piece on the glass carefully. You want to be sure that you get it exactly right, okay? Just like in making your pattern, and you set that aside for now. Just like in making your pattern, I'm going to go ahead and label it just so this is a good habit to get into. You can label it with the number. That way, if you have several pieces that look the same, when you're compiling your composition, it's real easy to put them together. You're going to have to know where they go eventually, but to begin with, it's okay to do that. Now, since I've got 2 pieces of the same size, and I'm working on this big piece of glass here, I don't want to waste glass, so I'm going to go ahead and put this one in right below that one, and outline it. Label it. Let's see if there's any other clear I'll put another one of these clears over here so that way I don't cut out. And what I'm trying to do is keep from having to waste glass and cut this whole sheet. If I line a couple more up underneath here, I can cut that way and I won't be wasting. Okay, we'll put one of these down there. Here's number 16. It's clear, so we'll put it right here at the bottom. This will make sense in a minute. You'll understand what I'm trying to do. All right, number 16. I'll put 12 back over there. Okay, now, looking at the best way to do this, that I don't waste glass, the best way to do it is to come up this way, cut like that, and then I'll break these pieces apart. Okay, so I'm going to get my cutter, and I'm going to cut along this line right here and straight up that way. And then I'll have these separate from this big piece. Now to do this, I like to go forward. Some people come backward. You're going to press down and listen whenever I start to cut, because there's a noise that you want to hear. Did you hear that noise? That's the score line being made, and that's what you want to hear. And now if you look, I don't know if y'all can see this or not, but there's a small line. It's hard to see, but it's running up and down that. And that's where we cut. What you're doing is just making a small indentation in the glass to make it weaker in that place so that we can break it. Okay? Now you could put this on the edge right here and push it down with your hand. I could break this holding it like this and moving my hands apart, but I want to teach you how to use the pliers, because that's how you most often end up breaking the glass. Okay, I'm holding them with the little line on the top. See, there's the little line, so I know I've got them right side up. And I'm going to put this right on top of the score line. Okay, I can see the indentation in the glass. I've got that little line lined up with the score line. And then you're going to gently squeeze your pliers, and it breaks. Okay, now I'm going to set this piece aside, and we need to cut these pieces out. Okay, so you can see where it would be good ideas to do that. Right here, and right there. We'll separate those pieces. Okay, so listen for the noise that it makes. It's a better idea if we do this. start where you have a line drawn. That way you stay on track. Okay, there's one score line done. I'm going to go ahead and do the rest of them. Here's another one. You hear that noise? Here we go, one more time. Okay, now we're going to get our pliers. I got the line up, and I'm going to line it up with that score line that I made, and I'm going to squeeze gently till it breaks. Same thing here. Got it lined up, I'll squeeze gently till it breaks. Same thing here. Okay, now that's how you cut. Now, there are some trickier cuttings, like trying to cut this circle out right here. I'm going to do another video on cutting where we'll go into cutting curves, cutting circles, some of the more complicated cuts, because it's worthy of another video just to get all of that in. But I want to show you before we do that about this tool, because if you are able to get one of these, it will make your life easier when it comes to cutting straight lines. Okay, this is how it works. We have these teal pieces right here, say, for instance. Okay, they're straight and they're all the same. Okay, they're all the same width. Across here, they're all the same. So what I'm going to do is, after I turn you towards the tool, or move the tool over here, let me see if you can see. We'll get our glass. Here's the pretty teal that has resin on it right there. I'll have to get that off. Okay, now let me get you fixed where you can see this really good. Okay. I hope that's good. Okay, what you do with this is, okay, your glass goes on this left side, and this has, as you can see, a straight line, the straight bar. This is movable. You can pick this up and move this anywhere around. But I want it straight up and down because I'm doing a straight up and down cut. And this part here moves down over your glass. When you get your glass in the way, this part moves down over the glass. Sometimes it's a little tricky, but it comes down over the glass. Okay? And these parts here are gonna move. You unscrew these and lift them up, and you can move them anywhere on here. What they do is butt up against your glass to hold it in place. You take one of your pieces and you're gonna line it up with this orange thing. And you line up the glass at the edge. Just like this. Right like that. Okay, you want it to line up exactly. And then you can, if you really want to be careful about it, you can move it down and line it up here. It should already be lined up the same distance. If you've got it squared at the bottom, which you need to have. Okay, but you can check it. Okay, check it up here if you want to. It should all be the same. I'm gonna push it out just a little bit further. Okay, so you can just barely see. I can just barely see the glass, so it's right at that line. So that's where I want it. So then I want to move these things up to where I'm holding on to my glass here, and then I'm going to put this down a little ways from it, and then these parts move. When you get it up to where you want it, you screw it back into place. Now that's held firm there. I'm going to do the same with this one. I'm just going to loosen it and push that part up and then screw it back down. Now that's held into place right there. Push this out of the way. Okay, then you're going to need your cutter again, because we know now that we have the width of this piece of paper in this side of our glass. They're the same. So when I cut this, I will have a big strip of this width piece of glass. And I can cut all 4 of these out of it. Okay, so I'm going to start at the top and I'm going to pull it down. There you go. Now, another thing, when you're cutting, don't stop. If you do stop, if you have to stop, don't move your cutter out of place. You can do like I did, how I paused in the middle and keep going, and it won't mess it up. If you take it out of the score line, it will mess it up. So if you cut halfway down and pick it up and move it around and try to put it back, it's likely that it's not going to work. I've done it before, but it's not a good idea. It's better just to cut straight through. You know, don't take your cutter up off the glass. Otherwise, it'll screw up what you're trying to do. Okay, maybe you can see this score line. It runs all the way down, up and down here. And we have an equal side of glass over here. This is the same width. So I'm going to line up my cutter, and then I'm going to squeeze. Now then, I can take this and I can cut all 4 of these pieces out of it. All 4 of these pieces can cut out of it. And it saved me from having to cut each individual one out of the glass. I hope that's clear. Okay, so if you have a chance, I bought this at Glass Castles in Nacogdoches. That's just a glass store. You can find them at most stained glass stores, or I'm sure Amazon has something comparable. I haven't looked. There's a lot more pieces to this. I only use this part of it mostly. Anyway, it's very helpful, and that's something to think about. But now we are free to cut out our teal strips that are that width. I have some clear strips that are going to be a different width. So I'll adjust my little things on the screen and then do that. But I'm not going to do that now because this video is going to be too long if I do. What I want to tell you next is just briefly about grinding. When you get your pieces done, okay, they will have rough edges. And I grind everything a little bit. Like this piece, let's say that I put this on I'm going to go over there and put this on my base pattern. And let's say it fits perfectly. Okay, I'm still going to go around the edges of it with my grinder just to knock off those little shards and sharp edges. There's the grinder right there. Okay, there's the grinder. And you can see it has a bit at the top right here, and it has a sponge. You have to keep it wet. You have to keep water in here and keep the sponge wet. Now, I'm not going to turn it on because it's really loud, but when you turn it on, pretend it's turned on, you just take your glass and you run it along the base of it like this. That way, that way, that way, and that way. You can hold it up or hold it down. If you want to move to a different place, this will get worn. So you can move your glass up and down on that if you want to. But it's safest to hold it down like this. You need to wear glasses when you do this. You can get glass in your eye. It's very dangerous. So you need to be careful. But that will take off all these little sharp bits. And also, I can see little bits of my line on here. Not very much. Not enough I'd worry about it. But if I could see a big part of my line, let's say that my cut was off, then I would want to grind that part off rather than recut it. If there's just a little bit that's wrong, then I use my grinder. If it's way off, then I would recut it. Okay? But for just a little, when you have just little parts of the glass, let me see if I can find. Well, I cut pretty good that time. I don't see any places that I need to recut, but I do see some that can use to be ground. If you look at this right here, see how I can see my line there? I didn't cut completely close enough to this side, so that will need to be ground down. And I'll get my grinder and I'll just go up and down this side until I can no longer see that line. That means it's close enough. And then I'll take it over to my pattern and I'll get my pattern out, and this is number 16. I'll put it in here and see. how it fits. It actually fits pretty good just like it is. Let me get you down where you can see that. See, that's how you know if you need to, how much you need to grind or if you need to grind. Is you take your pieces that you've cut out and you put them in place on your pattern. And then you can see if there are edges that go over. See, this fits pretty good, but right here at the bottom, like I said, there's that line, and that needs to go away. So I'll use my grinder on that. All right? Well, I feel like I've totally rushed through all of this. But you get the idea. I don't want to go too much longer. I could do another video on cutting alone and go into some of the more detailed cuts, like cutting curves and circles and things like that, because those are different and there are some tricks to doing that. But for our purposes today, I hope you were able to understand just the basics of cutting. So I will cut out the rest of our piece, and when we come back, I'll have it laid out on the pattern, and we will maybe talk about grinding a little more if we need to. The next step will be foiling, and we'll go on to that. So if you missed the first one, please catch up on it, and I'll try to do one at least every day until we get the series finished, maybe 2 in a day. I have to find time where I can work in here and there's nobody here. But I'll try and get these out as quickly as possible, and then you can get started making your own piece. Because like I said in the past video, you can do this. It's possible to learn how to do this without taking classes. You know, I encourage people to take classes. I teach classes, but if you aren't able to do that, or you're like me and you're hard-headed and you just don't want to do that, I can help you do it. And if you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comment box. I don't have very many comments. Nobody leaves me comments. And I want to know what you guys think. And especially if you have questions or if something was unclear, please let me know and I'll try and clear it up. Alright, thanks for being with me today, and please join me for the rest of the series and all the rest of my videos. I'll have some resin art on there and some acrylic pour paintings, and I'm just getting started, so I could use you guys' feedback and participation. That would be great. Thank you very much for being here today, and like I said, join me again.